He's Doug Gottlieb from CBS Sports, the road to the Final Four, working the games and in studio. He joins us now. All right, let's start with what happened last night. And you have since apologized for what you said. But how did it lead up to that what you were going to say and saying it in the moment?
No real lead up. I don't know if you guys rehearse at NBC?
Yes, sometimes we do, yes.
Yeah, most times at CBS we rehearse, and then, Charles and Kenny, they don't believe in rehearsing, and so I'd run it by a couple of buddies of mine, and that are in the industry. And nobody said like, "Oh, you shouldn't say that." But in hindsight, it's one of those things where you just now afterwards you're like, "Wow, it's kind of a dumb thing to say." Just especially it was a lead balloon, it's a joke gone awry, and you just kind of move on.
Well, I think, and Doug said, a white man's perspective, as you got 4 African Americans surrounding you there, you're in the middle, and all of a sudden it just sort of hung there. I said it's the kind of thing you say as you walk into the studio to those guys, or maybe you could have gotten away with it at the mothership because it's a little more frat-like there as opposed to CBS. What did those guys say when you went to commercial break about it?
No, honestly, nothing. I mean, nothing. It was just because we had a bunch of other content afterwards. And, I think part of it was they weren't ready for it. They weren't. I just thought, I've known Charles for 10 years or so. Obviously worked with Greg going back to the ESPN days. I hadn't worked with Kenny, but I have a good relationship with him. So I just thought, hey, maybe this would be an icebreaker just on one of the boys. And obviously they weren't necessarily ready for it and kind of stunned them. And then we just kind of moved on. So obviously there was some scrambling behind the camera. And, what are you going to do? You just, went over like a lead balloon, just, try and provide good basketball content from that point forward.
Hear from your bosses?
Yeah, sure.
And?
I mean, it was one of those, wasn't a very smart thing to say. I would say, in hindsight, yeah, especially how it came out. Like, it just wasn't, it's like, what do they tell you? Race, sex, politics.
Yep.
But I don't even think it was necessarily racially charged. It was just more like, just my idea in coming into it was, hey, elephant in the room, new guy, sit in middle chair, I don't know, say something funny, and just, obviously got to know the room, got to know it's like it's a lot like these basketball games. Got to know time, score, possession. All shots are not good shots based upon the time, score, and where you're shooting it. In this case, first time I touched the ball, I took a deep, deep three. And as you know from my shooting percentage and shooting in the man cave, that's not my game.
White men can't jump, white man can't joke. Doug Gottlieb from CBS Sports joining us on the program. The biggest surprise from last night was what game?
Oh, surprise. Well, I just think, how thoroughly Miami was whooped by Marquette. But I think if we look back, it's the 3 blowouts were all the teams that defensively were just kind of locked in and took the other team out of everything they want to do. What Syracuse did to Indiana is a very good offensive team.
Yeah. With
a bunch of weapons. And they looked completely feeble. They had a week to prepare and looked completely feeble in their attempts to score against the zone. That was impressive. But then you watch Marquette, look, Miami's a good team. And apparently Shane Larkin was sick or whatever. But they had nothing. And then, even when they tried to creep back in it, Marquette got layup after layup after layup. The thoroughness by which Marquette whooped up on Miami is probably the most surprising thing.
Biggest surprise tonight will be turned in by who?
I think Louisville wins in a walk. I think Florida Gulf Coast, if Florida is able to score and set up the press, take them out of what they want to do, I think, again, defensive metrics. The game I can't figure out is Michigan against Kansas. It's again, the defensive numbers, Kansas best defensive team in the country, field goal percentage defense-wise. But Michigan does spread you out. And the way to attack Jeff Withey is to bring him up on the court, ball screen with him, and that's how Trey Burke scores all his points. And creates all the shots. So that's going to be interesting to me. And then does Ben McLemore show up? He was a no-show for Kansas in the first weekend. If he shows up and plays, Kansas marches on. If not, Michigan's in the Elite Eight.
Final 30 seconds. If it's true UCLA has whiffed on Brad Stevens, who's next in line to be interviewed?
I don't know. I think they're getting a little bit of a rude awakening as to how they're perceived.
Yep.
And I personally can't conceive somebody turning down the UCLA job. I think it's a great job, but I think, you fire a coach that won the Pac-12, all you're going to do is get everybody involved. All the other head coaches, they're all going to get pay raises because of it. And they're going to turn it down, and maybe they end up turning to an NBA guy like Mike Dunleavy, who's politicking behind the scenes for it.
Hey, hang in there, and have fun tonight.
Love you, Dan.
All right. Love you, Doug. Doug Gottlieb. White Man's Perspective.